Good afternoon. Welcome to today's webinar. My name is Josephine Franklin. I will be your moderator for today's webinar. Our topic today is how to make students the center of your school culture, the building ranks way. Following are a few technical notes of information to assist during the webinar. If you have a technical problem during the broadcast, please call Zoom support at the toll-free number typed in red, 888-799-9666, extension 2, and provide today's webinar ID that you see in red, 578-749-724. As you participate in this webinar, we invite you to expand the conversation on Twitter using the hashtag NASSP webinar. We are also on Facebook at facebook.com/principals. Today's webinar is being recorded and will be available as well as the PowerPoint on the NASSP website within 24 hours at nassp.org/webinars. We are pleased to have with us today Dr. Bill Ziegler. Dr. Ziegler is the principal of Pottsgrove High School in Pennsylvania. He is an award-winning school leader, author, speaker, and an NASSP board member. He was the 2016 Pennsylvania Principal of the Year and the 2015 NASSP Digital Principal Award winner. He is also the host of Lead the Way, a podcast for school leaders. Bill, welcome, and thank you for being with us today. I am going to turn the controls over to you, and I think
awesome.
I am.
Hey, thank you so much, Joe. Really appreciate the opportunity to be on this program and to be part of this. And today we're going to be talking really about student voice and student connectiveness. And the building ranks piece, I was really honored to be part of the building ranks component and book. And one of the things I love about it is the new focus on student-centeredness. And with that, it says in there, how to make students the center of your school culture, the building ranks way. And it is clearly articulate. It's like a tool guide for school leaders, the building ranks framework is, for you to dig into on page 48 in the building ranks. It has several pages, case studies, examples of school leaders, and the things that you can do to immediately become student-centered in your school. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be talking about being student-centered. And with that, we are going to be digging into two components. There's the building culture and leading learning. I love how the building ranks framework is broken into these two pieces, because we all know that true learning begins when a culture is right and positive and a fertile soil for learning to take place. That's why we have the component side that says building culture, but also as a school leader, it's our responsibility to be leading learning. And that leading learning piece is really another main focus for us. But we're going to look today solely at student-centeredness. Student-centeredness, because this is one of the ways that we as school leaders should be really focusing on building. I ask you a question. Are kids the loudest voice in your school? And I don't mean when the bell rings and they're running down the halls loud as they're cheering at their friend or yelling at someone. I don't mean that at all. Are kids the loudest voice in your school? Are they the voice that people listen to the most? Do they have input at the principal's level decision-making? Do they have school-wide improvement decision-making where they can come in and they can make suggestions, they can provide insight, they can even challenge your thinking as the school leader or even your teachers? These are some critical things to be thinking about as a school leader and working to build student connectedness. Just ask yourself that question right now. Are the kids the loudest voice in your school? Think about it. And if they're not, I ask you, why not? Is your school, are the adults the loudest voice? Maybe it's teachers. Maybe it's district office. Maybe it's one disgruntled employee. maybe it's community members, maybe it's parents. But what happens when kids are not the loudest voice? We begin to design a school that's focused on adults and not on kids. We begin to put boundaries on classrooms that keep kids out of them, like prerequisites that are out of this world that kids can't enter into. So we select who gets into courses. But really, if kids are the loudest voice in our school, they are part of the driving change. Now let me back up. They're actually leading the driving change with you as the school leader and with your team of teachers. They have to be out there at the forefront. This doesn't come naturally. You must be intentional. Intentional listening is so key as a school leader, because when we listen intently, that means we're actually taking action and a focus to listen to the voice and choice of students. So I like to call intentional listening actively listening to students and planning to hear their voice. And then strategic listening, systematically designing ways to listen to students. So in the first one, you're making that intention. You are going after it. You are passionate about hearing kids' voices, and you're making sure that it's happening. The second one is you're finding strategic and systematic ways to embed that into your school day and your school year. For example, you might have kids on your student council that maybe you create like a school leadership team of teachers and school leaders, and students are on that. Maybe you have students that meet with you regularly, weekly, to provide suggestions on how to improve the school. Later in this webinar, we will be showing you actual ways that you can be strategic as a leader, ways that have been effective for me as a school leader in our school of about 1,000 students, and ways that other school leaders are doing this exact same thing. I'd really like to, on page 48 in the Building Ranks book, I'd really like to point out, William Bayless says this quote, "At the end of the day, you always want to focus the conversation around kids and what is best for them." I'd like to add, get the kids as part of the conversation. Get them in the conversation. Get them at the table, get them providing input, and it's our responsibility as school leaders to make this focus important. William Bayless, he's principal of Oberlin High School in Oberlin, Ohio. He says, as a principal, you set the tone for what your expectations are. So set the tone that says, you know what, you're going to value student voice as much as adult voices. I'd like you to consider, is your school run by adults, or is your school run by kids, or is your school run by a collaboration between the two? I really think it needs to be that collaborative piece. Sadly, today in our schools, we're deciding and making decisions that are keeping kids out of things, restricting kids, coming down harshly on kids, rather than teaching them, giving them autonomy, bringing them to the table to be invested, and getting them actively involved in the learning and the leadership of your school. So I want to talk to you about student voice. And one of these pieces is a young lady who came to me who she was suffering with depression, and she had a disorder where she pulled her hair out. And this disorder has a real long name to it. And she really struggled through her middle school and high school years to work through this. And she said to me, she really has gotten to the point where she's really healthy. She's doing some amazing presentations in our community. She was down at the United States Capitol building, presenting, I think, before Congress about mental health needs. And she said, Dr. Z, I would like to present an assembly before the student body about my struggles with depression, anxiety, and this hair pulling disorder. And I got to tell you, I recoiled back thinking, oh my goodness, I'm going to give over an assembly to a student about mental health, which is a highly sensitive topic. So we met, we planned, we met with parents, we put this together, and I'm excited to tell you, this is Sarah right here, presenting in front of our 1,000 students. And one of the slides she put up there is, it's okay not to be okay. And she talked to kids about how to get help, how to admit that you need help. She talked about her story, her journey, where she has come from. And she shared the heartbreaking story of how she's had ups and downs in life that seemed insurmountable. But here is a picture of her on the left with our congressman, and she actually won a major award down in Washington, D.C. And on the right is her here picking out a wig. Students came to us afterwards and they're like, Dr. Z, I want you to know, this is one of the most powerful assemblies we've ever had. And wow, that made me really reflect as a principal, because I sit there going, if I wouldn't have had this assembly, these kids would not have had this opportunity. My fears, my inhibitions, my anxieties about having this assembly could have easily held it off if I wasn't willing to say, let's go for it. Let's plan it out. Let's have structure, follow through in detail, and let's do some good solid planning to make this highly effective. We partnered with our school counselors. We partnered with some of our teachers, and she literally ran the entire assembly other than me welcoming her and kicking it off. She then followed up with helping our counselors and following up and connecting with them afterwards. And it's really about giving the testimony of giving student voice. But it didn't end there. She said, hey, Dr. Z, I'd like to bring my therapy dog to school because he really helps me out. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I just don't know about this. So, you know, we never had a therapy dog in our school like this before for students. And I asked her, I said, hey, you know, what breed is he? What kind of training? She says, well, I had him trained. And she said he's, I think, part Labrador Retriever, part Pit Bull. And at this point, I was like, oh my goodness, like maybe we should just stop on this. This courageous woman, she would not take no for an answer. And here's a picture. She was featured. You can see Grove grad, courageous story goes national. She was featured on the Today Show about how she has courageously moved mental health forward and getting kids to be receptive to asking for help in regards to mental health. And she had a feature on the Today Show and did a phenomenal job. I'm just so proud of her. But this is just one example of how schools can tell the story of students and how if we don't listen to their voices, because when she came to me, there is part of me that just wanted to shut it down because I'm sitting here going, she's talking about highly sensitive issues. She's not trained in this. She's not a professional. You know, she's not really spoken in front of 1,000 students before. And I put my anxieties aside and worked with her to do this. Another piece that we worked at in Pottsgrove here is to get our story out to the public and to get it out through the eyes of students. So we selected a student and we did a Twitter takeover day. And I'd really encourage you to do a Twitter takeover day where you give over your social media to the student and they actually feature and they tweet out or they post out on Instagram about what's going on in the school for that day. And what this does is it provides your community a view, a lens into what your school day looks like. And it's really awesome because they get to see it from the student's perspective, not our perspective. And this was awesome. So we sat out, we meet with Shelby's the student in the picture there. We met with her, got her parents on the phone. We put a contract together. You know, this is what you can do. This is what you can't do. We gave her some ideas, some directions. And then we monitored the Twitter account all day and not one inappropriate tweet. We did something really cool where in addition to this, we've created hashtags for our students, and like hashtag PGHS9 is our 9th grade one. And we do contests throughout the year to see who can get the most tweets. And we put very strict guidelines into, you know, you can't have fingers or, you know, hand gestures into it. You can't be doing anything inappropriate, all these things. And I think last year we had like 3,000 photos and only one had a kid with a hand gesture. And even that hand gesture wasn't necessarily inappropriate. I think it was like the peace sign, but we were so strict about no hand signs, we removed that one. All the others were appropriate. So I think it's about really giving students opportunity. I met with our art teachers recently, and our art teachers, I'm just so proud of them. They give students voice on a daily basis. Right? They have created an online art gallery through Instagram. And this is a huge hit right now in our school where students post their work and teachers post the work for them on our school's art Instagram gallery. And they encourage other students to go on and post and comment and reflect and you know, analyze the art piece and then give a reflection to it. And again, it's just another way to really promote the voice of students. I ask you the question again, are kids the loudest voice in your school? Because if they're not, maybe they need to be. I want to walk you through something that's really been effective in our school, something that has really changed our school. And I want you to think about this for a second. Here you see a picture of a salad bar, late arrivals, Tabasco sauce, and paper towels. And you might ask yourself, what in the world do they have in common? Or what in the world do they have to do with student voice? Well, student voice is really powerful. We try to do our best in listening to student voice. So we host a thing called Falcon Feedback Friday. And during this Falcon Feedback Friday, we actually ask students, how can we improve our school? You know what kids said? High schoolers said, we want a salad bar. In the bathrooms, we only had the helicopter-like hand dryers. And they said, we want paper towels. And they said, Dr. Z, we have no hot sauce in the cafeteria. And then finally, during the inclement weather, they're like, hey, when it's snowing, can we get a 5 to 10 minute window to come in for the drivers? Because we don't want to rush in. I said, sure, absolutely. And we got Tabasco sauce in the cafeteria. We got hand dryers in there. And hot sauce. Thank you so much, Nara Lee. We love our hot sauce. Actually, it's funny. After we got it, one of the students actually tweeted out, Dr. Z, thanks so much for the hot sauce. And just a good thing to do, listening to kids. So I want to share with you the 4 strategies, the 4 questions that we ask. So what we do is on Fridays, we don't get to every Friday because, things come up, things happen, but we try to really work to be intentional about this. And we ask we choose 4 students from each grade. So we have 16 random students there, totally random. They cannot be in this group more than once a year. And so we try to get through like 200 or 300 students a year. First question we ask them is, what does Pottsgrove High School do great? And every student has to share. So we ask every student to give us feedback on what does our school do great. And then it's awesome what you hear. I mean, you hear things like you have an awesome teaching staff, or, you have a great course selection or other things. And I think it's really good because you can build on that. We take notes during this so we can track trends and look at trends and really work to make change as a result of what students say. The second question, as you can see there, is what does Pottsgrove High School need to improve on? Wow, this opens it up. And we really put in, at the beginning of the meeting, we talk about, hey, listen, we're not mentioning any teachers by name, no staff members by name, but and just to make sure that, we stay appropriate the entire time. And I can tell you, rarely, if at all, do we go off task and do something. Students are always focused and attentive. So what does Pottsgrove need to improve on? And it really gives them an opportunity to dig in. This is where we learned that we needed Tabasco sauce. This is where we learned that we never even thought of this, but we have a cafeteria of about 400 kids in our cafeteria, and we have 1 microwave. And they came to us and they said, hey, can we get 2 more microwaves? We're like, sure, that's like $300. I think we can make that work. So we went and got more microwaves. The littlest change like that you make for them makes a huge difference in their life. And then we ask them, what do you dream Pottsgrove could be? We want you to dream about anything. Sometimes the students say, can we put a pool on the 3rd floor? We don't even have a 3rd floor. But they'll ask, can we build a new gymnasium? Can we, all this kind of stuff. And some of it's like really positive things that we look at and we go, wow, let's dream together about what we could be as a school. And then finally, what can you personally do to make Pottsgrove a better place? And I just smile when I hear students say, talk to people in the halls, pick up, somebody drops their books in the hallway, pick them up, support them, reach out and connect with students that aren't as connected. And these Falcon Friday feedback sessions, we end them by joining together as a group when we take a group picture. And then we try to send the manuscript of the meeting notes out and the picture out on our Schoology, our learning management system, so others can learn about it and others can see what we're doing. It constantly rings in my ear. Are students the loudest voice in your school? And I think that we're working real hard to do that, but we still have a lot of areas to grow in. So I want to share some other ways that you can engage student voice. So student board representatives, we select 2 student board representatives to set on our school board of directors. So we currently in Pennsylvania, we have 9 school board of directors on our school board. And then we, as a school district, have decided that we're going to put a senior member of the senior class on as a student board rep, and a member of the junior class on the school board. And the junior stays on for 2 years, and the senior actually ends up staying on for 2 years because they get selected as a sophomore, and then they're in as a junior and a senior. This has been really nice because it provides that insight from, I think, a board perspective to the high schoolers, and from the high schoolers to the school board. Student-led discussion groups on school improvement. Bring them at the table. Talk about how can you improve as a school. Strategically identify ways. Like, one way that I want to really dig into next year is how can we increase the number of students that are in low socioeconomic groups and diverse students in our honors and our AP courses. And next year, when we start school off next year, we're going to bring students and teachers together to talk about and look at the data, like how many does our honors courses and our advanced placement courses reflect the demographics of our school? Because if it doesn't, then we need to make change. And I want the students to be part of leading that change. So another one is student-led learning, right? Given choice, really emphasizing to your teachers about the importance of giving students choice on activities and choices on how they even take an exam, whether they can be project-based, challenge-based, or written. Student written, directed, and active play. This has been one that's just been awesome for us. Through the years, we have had students, we choose our No Place for Hate theme, and we ask students to write a play around the No Place for Hate theme. And then they actually write the play, direct the play, and they actually get students to act out in the play. And we find that kids just love this. Students just absolutely love this opportunity. And then we have student-led parent-teacher conferences. I'd encourage you to do that. We're not doing that here. I know some principals throughout the country that are doing that, but that's another great way to integrate students in. And then sit down and get feedback sessions. Just listen to them. Ask them those questions, the Falcon feedback. Make it your own. Personalize it. But we need to be listening to kids on a regular and consistent basis. And, as a school leader, this is what I would say. We try our best to listen to kids, but if it's not strategic in the sense that you're being intentional in scheduling it each week or each day or certain times a month, it's probably not going to happen, at least with fidelity. So I'd encourage you to do that. I want to wrap around back to the Building Ranks framework in the book. If you haven't had a chance to get the book, I'd really encourage you to. I love Randy Jensen. Randy Jensen's a principal from William Thomas Middle School in Idaho. And he talks about assigning students to advisory teachers to foster relationships and intervene if they become at risk, because being student-centered and is more than just hearing students' voice. It's intentionally seeking out students who need help and support and hearing their voice, because a lot of times we don't hear the voice of the students that are struggling, and we don't hear a lot of the voices of the students in the middle. So I would really encourage you to think about that and to work on listen, promote, and choice. Listen to students, promote students and their work and their dreams and their visions, and give them choice in the learning. I think it's just so key. And then, lastly here is learn how to build student-centeredness. One of the best ways you can do that, I think, one of the best ways I do it is by getting on social media, connecting with other school leaders, and seeing what they're doing. That's why I'm really excited to be part of the National Principals Conference this July in Boston. I hope that you and I will get an opportunity to connect there. But even if we don't, just connect with other leaders. The one thing I love about this conference is we're all principals. Whether we're principals in elementary, middle, or high school, we all understand the importance of leading a school and how complex that is. So I would really encourage you to go to the conference, learn more about Building Ranks, and connect with some leaders. Let's jump into question and answers. Joe, are there any questions and answers?
Yes. Does each student have an opportunity for recognition, or do some students tend to receive recognition and awards?
Wow, love the question. I think that's when we talk about being intentional, we as school leaders need to be intentional in making sure that we recognize the achievements and skills and gifts and talents of all students, not just the top flyers. What I find in schools is that we recognize two groups. We recognize the high flyers, and then we recognize our most fragile learners. Where we fall short sometimes is those kids in the middle, the kids that are getting the C's or the low B's and just really trying to struggle to get by. So I would challenge us all to be thinking about how can we support and be student-centered toward all students. So we do this project in our school called the DOT Project. And it's from Dr. Kenneth Ginsberg. He's a pediatrician at the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. And what he said was he wants you to take your entire class roster. So we printed out our entire class roster and we put it in the cafeteria. And we said to our teachers, we gave them like markers, and we said, if you would know this child's having a bad day, put a dot next to the kid's name. If you know that this kid's having a bad day, put a dot next to this kid. And literally, we stationed the faculty out from A to Z over the entire roster of our 1,000 students. And what we found were that the athletes, the musicians, the honor students, they had 20 dots. The kids that are struggling, that are getting into trouble and making poor decisions and fragile learners in schools, they had about 5 to 10 dots. The quiet kid in the middle was lucky if they had 2 or 3 dots. And we even found some kids that had 0 dots because no staff member could say, hey, listen, I see that that kid is having a bad day. And, you know, it was a real good reflective activity for us. And then what we did was we actually grouped them out. And we know exactly in our school who has 0 dots all the way up to 20. And we intentionally work to try to build relationships with those kids that have 5 or less dots. So, yeah, Joe, it's a great point. Let's recognize all kids and celebrate their talents. Any other questions?
Yeah, so this is kind of a two-part question here. How could you provide more students with opportunity for recognition, and how do you vary the recognition in ways that are important to the students?
I think you gotta focus the recognition around the skill set and talents of students. I'll give you this example. We just celebrated college and military commitment day when students signed for their, to go off to college. Well, here at Pottsgrove, we're about 75% of our kids go off to college or the military. And as a staff and as a parent-teacher group, we go, we're missing 25% of our kids. And why shouldn't they have the same opportunity to come down and be excited over the fact that they just got a job with BMW, or that they just got to join the electricians union in Philadelphia, or that they passed their dental exam or their COS exam? And why not recognize those students also? So we are strategically looking for ways to recognize and celebrate the achievements of all students. Because when we do that, we really truly become student-centered, just like the Building Ranks framework talks about and leads us to. And without that, we fall short. Kids fall through the cracks, and we don't build schools. We don't build the ranks of our schools. So I'd encourage you to be thinking about how you can do that.
Thank you, Bill. Are you seeing any more questions on your end?
I am not. No.
Okay. All right, then we're going to go to our final slide here. And I'd like to extend an invitation to join your colleagues for the 2019 National Principals Conference, sponsored by NASSP, July 18th through the 20th, 2019 in Boston, Massachusetts. You can learn more about the conference and register at the address shown on the slide, www.principalsconference.org. And thank you all for joining us today. That concludes our webinar. Thank you.
Joe, thank you so much.
All right. Bill, if you could just hit the stop sign, and then I can get the controls.
Give up remote control. There it goes.
All right. Thank you so very much.